Hello, Form 4 Chemistry, Chapter 7, video number 10, page number 10. Okay, so we finished the first factor that affect the rate of reaction, that is the site of reactants. And now we go to another factor, the concentration of the reactant. 反应体的浓度。Or when we talk about the site, it must be solid, 对不对？ Because solid having the site, 固体才有体积嘛。And now when we talk about the concentration, 当我们讲到浓度 this one will be the liquid 啦 ，OK？ 它们都是 solution 液体的形态。So 反应体的浓度怎样影响化学反应的速度呢 ？We start again， 我们又再来了。So the second factor that can affect the rate of reactions, we call it as the concentration of the reactant, 反应体的浓度 and you copy here, your note is here, 你的 notes 在这边 okay? And when we talk about concentration, they are in solution form, 它们都是 solution. So 什么叫 solution? 液体的形态啦。Now, a very important sentence, 有一句重要的话，然后抄下去，很重要的，真的。A more concentrated reactants will have more particle per unit volume. Copy first, 先抄，什么意思呢 ？A more concentrated reactant 比较浓的反应体 will have more particle per unit volumes. 这个 more particle per unit volume 很多人不会写，每次考试都输在这边，出事也出事在这边。So now you see, I having the same volume of reactant, 我有2杯同样大杯的反应体。And for those with a higher concentration, 浓度比较高的那一杯 it contains more particle per unit volume 呢。在同样的体积之下 ，the particle is more, the reactant is more 啦，它的质量比较多，它的反应体比较多。所以这句话非常受用，非常好用。More particle per unit volume, so that's why when the particle is more, the reactant is more per unit volume, the rate of reaction will be higher 啦，它的反应的速度就会比较高。So now again, we're going to draw a graph again. 我们又再画一个 graph, and the notes will be here. 你的 notes 在这边小小的一个 graph, and you can see who are you, 就能看出你是谁了。Still remember? Okay, so start now. Draw. So now time means during the chemical reaction. 时间就是化学反应发生的时候。Okay, and this is your product. So at the beginning, 刚刚开始的时候 I using a normal concentration of the reactant. Or what's mean by normal concentration of reactants? 什么叫普通浓度的反应体呢 ？Normal 咯，浓不浓 ？Normal 咯。Okay, and I repeat the experiment by using a higher concentration of reactant. 现在重复实验，我开始我的新实验 by using a higher concentration of reactant. 不过用比较浓度高的反应体。So now your task is here. 你的工只有一个 ，draw a line for me. 画一条线给我。Okay, when the concentration of reactant become higher, how is the rate of reaction? And your line represent the rate of reaction. 你画的那一条线就代表着化学反应的速度。So I wait for you. 我在等着你，把那条速度的线画出来。Start 开始了。And in our class, 我们在课室里面，我今天讲课室，因为现在我们在比较 online 课室很无奈，对不对？刚刚能回课室，可能又不能回了。过后，OK。So now in our class, most of them, or 50% at least, 起码50% 的学生他们会这样画了，因为从我们的 past experience， 他认为速度比较快，浓度比较高，速度比较快。So now they draw another line. And the line will be look like this. 它的线呢是这样子的。And again, you'll be wrong. 你是错的。Why? When the concentration become higher, the number of particles will be more, or the reactant become more. When the reactant become more, the product should be more. The rate of reaction will be higher. 反应体的速度呢比较高。So the graph will be steeper 啦，比较斜。But finally, the number of product will be higher. 你拿到的 product 呢会比较多。So 浓度越高，反应体越多 ，the product will be higher 啦。你拿到的 product 会更多。So I make it better. 后面给它平啊。Okay, so this is your graph. Settled, I finished the title. 一句话教完了。But when you go exam, what you're going to see will be the experiments. 你去考试，你看到的东西呢是那个实验来的。 明白吗 ？So now we talk about the experiments. This is your notes, page number 1， 就是第10面、11面这样子左右了哈。Okay. So how is our experiments? How does the concentration affect the reaction? 反应体的浓度怎样影响化学反应的速度 ？And now I want to give you a very important experiment for this chapter. 我要给你一个很重要的实验。Important. I seldom write this word. 我很少写这个字。Important for experiment， 对不对？通常讲啦，今天赢你啦。But this one, I will tell you, important for this chapter 啦。在这一课里面，它是我们的 experiment 之王。Okay, follow me, understand the experiment first. 我们不能读的实验不能这样子一句一句跟你这样慢慢读的。念经，那种叫念经，不叫教书啊。So experiment 看我就可以了，实验就看我吧。Now prepare a piece of A4 paper， 准备一张的 A4 paper。And now using the marker pen, mark X on the A4 paper。在 A4 paper 上面呢打一个叉 ，mark X on the A4 paper。And then what to do？ 然后过后做什么呢？Prepare a conical flask， 准备一个圆锥瓶 ，and inside the conical flask, what are the contents inside？ 里面要装什么东西呢 ？Number 1, sodium disulfate。第一个我們要裝的就是 sodium disulfate solution。Alright, sodium disulfate. Maybe this is the first time you see the name. 你第一次看到这個名字 ，but I have to mention， 我必須強調它的名字重要了，所以我會講得很清楚。Sodium disulfate, sodium ion。Disulfate ion 就是 S2O3， 就是2碱的。In your past year, they ask you to write the ion。曾经在past year，他教你写这个名字，也教你写它的 ion， 也教你写这个实验的化学反应 ，but you're not familiar， 你可能一点都不熟，对不对 ？Sodium disulfate solutions. The solution is colorless， 它是没有颜色的。Sodium ion 没有颜色。Disulfate 也是没有颜色 ，so sodium disulfate 50 ml 50 ml 0.2 mol per cubic dm， 它的浓度就是0.2。OK， 没有颜色的液体一杯了。And now add some dilute sulfuric acid， 把一点点淡淡的硫酸呢倒下去5 ml sulfuric acid 5 ml 1 mol per cubic dm， this is the concentration， 它的浓度是1 mol per cubic dm。OK，so colorless you add them together， 把两个东西呢倒在一起，没有颜色倒在一起。OK， copy on your note， shake it， 摇它一下 ，and start the stopwatch。Shake it and you can start the stopwatch。你开始你的计时表了。So what going to happen？ 什么事情发生？没有颜色加没有颜色，然后开始计算时间。你要计算时间做什么呢 ？So see what will happen？ 什么事情发生 ？So what can happen？Who can tell you? Chemical equation can tell you 啦。化学反应能告诉你什么事情发生。And this chemical equation again your past year answer。我们不是怕它past year。我们是怕 next year， 是不是 ？So what happened？ 什么事情发生 ？Copy on your notes, page number 11， 抄在你的第11面，就是这一边呢。这边 chemical equation 化学反应。So what happened during the chemical reactions？ 什么事情发生？看呢 ？Sodium disulfate actually is colorless， 没有颜色的。因为 sodium 的离子没有颜色 ，disulfate 没有颜色 ，sulfuric acid is also colorless， 没有颜色加没有颜色。Finally, what happened？ 它变成什么东西呢 ？So you're going to produce a salt， 它会产生一种盐叫 sodium sulfate。Sodium sulfate 的离子都是没有颜色 ，so sodium sulfate 的盐呢，它溶解在水里面的盐呢 ，colorless。At the same time, it produces water， 它也产生水 ，water colorless。And the gas called sulfur dioxide 也放出一种酸性的气体叫 sulfur dioxide， and the gas is colorless。没有颜色加没有颜色变成没有颜色加没有颜色加没有颜色 plus the sulfur 加那个黄色的 sulfur 的 precipitate， 黄色的粉呢跑出来了 yellow。This one is not colorless， 它不是没有颜色，这个有颜色，它是黄色的粉 precipitate 来的。 OK， 液体跟液体起反应放出来的固体呢，就叫 precipitate， 对不对 ？So yellow precipitate will be formed， 黄色的 precipitate 呢就会产生。So 没有颜色加没有颜色，你搅几下，它慢慢的出现 yellow color precipitate，and the precipitate actually sulfur 啦。remember 刚才那个化学反应，虽然我已经不在那边一直喊着化学反应 ，but 那个化学反应是你8写的答案。你一定要会写了，好吗 ？Okay. So yellow precipitate will be formed. Okay, so just now you start your stopwatch. 刚才你开始你的 stopwatch， 什么时候你要 stop 呢？对不对 ？Stopwatch 的功能就是要 stop 它啦。So when you're going to stop your stopwatch， 什么时候呢 ？Simple.The yellow precipitate going to become more and more. 这个黄色的粉呢，它会越来越多。And when the precipitate become more and more, when you make your observation here, this is your eyes. 画到很难看的眼睛，对不对？这就是你的眼睛。当你从上面看下来 ，when the precipitate become more, they're going to block the X. 它就会把那个 X 呢遮掉去，看不到。So the times record when the X marks or the mark X is disappear from sight. 什么时候才记录你的时间？什么时候 stop the stopwatch? The times record when X marks or mark X is disappear from sight. 当你在上面看下来，这个 X 看不到的时候 ，you stop the stopwatch， 你就停止你的 stopwatch。But how？ 它的情况到底怎样的呢 ？Maybe we have to watch a video 了，我们要看它的 video， 你才能有那种现场的感觉。So start now， 看看当时发生了什么事。
In this video, I will demonstrate experiment. You will need some sodium thiosulfate solution, a conical flask and thermometer, measuring cylinder, and some hydrochloric acid. Please ensure that you have your safety goggles on at all times and make sure your stopwatch is ready to be used. Firstly, measure the temperature of the sodium thiosulfate solution.
The experiment not start yet， 还没有 start 过啊！你不要怕，还没有 start， 不要管它。我只要给你看 sodium disulfate only， 啊
，like so. Make a clearly distinguishable X with a black pen. So you should be able to see the black X through the sodium thiosulfate solution. Add your 10 milliliters of hydrochloric acid to the sodium thiosulfate solution and start the stopwatch. When hydrochloric acid and sodium thiosulfate solution react together, a creamy white precipitate of sulfur is formed, and this obscures the X. You should be able to see that the X is now becoming faded because of the sulfur that is being produced. When the X has
So when the X mark disappear, stop your stopwatch. But this one, the YouTuber still continue talking. And just now he said the sulfur precipitate is white and creamy. But in our notes, 我们整个马来西亚的 notes 都是 yellow precipitate 黄色的，所以不要理它。White and creamy 是他家里的事，你的是黄色的。OK， continue 呢，叫他 stop the stopwatch.
Completely disappeared. That is when you stop the stopwatch, like now. We'll zoom in to show you that the X has disappeared.
Okay, so this is our experiments. When the X mark disappear, record your time， 把你的时间记录起来了。Understand? So this is the experiments. And now we look at the data. 我们要会看这个表格，这个 data. Otherwise， 等一下你面对问题的。你看啊。So today, my manipulated variable 我的操纵性变数 the concentration of sodium disulfate. So for the first set, I prepared 0.2 mol per cubic m. 我准备的就是 0.2 mol per cubic m. How many ml? 几 ml 呢？不知道。Sodium disulfate 50 ml 0.2 mol per cubic m. And the distilled water 我拿去加水吗？没有啊。So sodium disulfate 0.2 mol per cubic m. Sulfuric acid 刚才的硫酸是我们的固定性变数，50 ml 还是多少 ml 不知道了。它的浓度5 ml, and the concentration is maybe whatever. This is a constant variable. So when the concentration of the sodium disulfate is 0.2, the time taken for the Mach X to disappear is 20 seconds. Mach X 不见的时间呢是20秒，20秒过后你看不到那个 X 的。Okay, so this is the time taken. 它的时间越长就是它越慢啊，时间越短就是它越快。Or in your exams, sure, they're going to ask you to calculate 1 per time. Or what's mean by 1 per time? 1 per time 就是它的意思就是 rate of reaction 1除时间。So how to get the answer for 1 per time? Using the 1 over the time 用1除你拿到的时间，就是1除20。So the answer will be 0.05， 就是 0.05。So 什么叫 1 per time? 它就是 rate of reactions. So the rate of reaction for the set ones is 0.05 per second. 0.05 per second 这样读就可以了。So 1 per time 永远就是化学反应的速度，也就是 0.05 per second. Okay? Next, for the second set, I repeat my experiment. 我重复我的实验。So repeat the experiment with different concentration of sodium disulfate. But how I repeat my experiment? Sulfuric acid totally same, 完全一模一样。这个叫固定性变数。But for second set, I prepare less sodium disulfate solution. 我准备少一点点。And I add some water. 我加一点水下去。For what? To dilute it 冲淡它。稀薄它，给它变成比较淡。But actually, in your exam, this is not your business. 除非你真的有阿玛利亚，你明年考试真的在 lab 里面，他真的要叫你做这个步骤，你就没有办法了。So we're using less sodium disulfate solution, add some water to make it more dilute, 给它比较淡一点点。Okay, and now, how much is the concentration? 你冲淡它过后，它的浓度是多少呢 ？0.16， 剩下 0.16。But most of the time in our exams, 没有这样厉害的人，这种人呢，差不多很少，对不对 ？So when you go exam, they will just directly tell you 了，他直接告诉你，它浓度 0.16。So 怎样去冲淡它，怎样做，怎样算，通常呢没有用到这样离谱的事情，除非你真的在 lab 里面呢。So when the concentration become lower, the time taken become longer, and the rate of reaction 就是1除时间 become lower 了，所以它的速度降低了 0.043 per second. So continue, record your data, 继续 record 你的 data. So now I add more water, 加更多的水 the concentration of sodium disulfate become lower and lower, 越来越低了 and the time taken become longer, 1 per time becomes lower 啦，所以它的速度也越来越慢了。So complete your data 啦，给你的 data complete 一下，这就是你的 data。哦，也是巴西的 paper 3来的，这样子的做法其实是一题的 paper 3。And now, after you having your data in the table, they're going to ask you to draw a graph, 对不对？它通常叫你画一个 graph. So how to draw the graph? 那个 graph 到底讲话呢？你看啊。So the first type of graph, 第一种 graph 呢 they ask you to draw time versus the concentration of the sodium disulfate. 就是 sodium disulfate 的浓度跟那个时间的之间的关系。So the higher the concentration of sodium disulfate 的浓度越高 the time taken for the Mach X to disappear becomes shorter. Mach X 不见的时间呢就比较短。When the concentration become lower, 当浓度越来越低的时候 Mach X 不见的时间呢就比较长了，对不对 ？So this is the first style graph. 第一种 graph 就是浓度对时间。But this style graph never in exam. I never say in the future 啦，在以后我不代表没有 ，but in the past year 以前到现在为止，这种 graph 是不会出现的，他不会叫你画这个 graph 的。When you go exam, the graph will be 1 per time versus the concentration of sodium disulfate， 就是1 per time 跟那个浓度之间的关系。So what is mean by 1 per time？ 什么叫1 per time？ 就是 rate of reaction 啊。So using the data for the 1 per time 永远要放横的 Okay, versus the concentration of sodium disulfate. So the higher the concentration of sodium disulfate 的浓度越高的话，它的化学反应的速度呢也越来越高。And after you plot your graph plot， 当你 plot 完你的 graph 过后啊 ，maybe one day 啦，有一天 ，maybe you're facing this problem。Whatever you plot look like a straight line， 看起来像一条直线 ，but not straight enough， 不够直。So what to do? You draw curve. 如果你画 curve 的话，又好像很直，要画直又不够直。So in this case, normally we draw a best fit line. 我们画出一条最美的 fit line 啦。So 最后它是一条直线来的。And in this case, in our past year, don't worry, the data will be very beautiful. 它的 data 美到你怕，它画出来，它点 plot 出来的时候 ，is a straight line. 它已经是一条直线了。But in case 社会一直进步，环境一直改变 ，SPM 越来越难的，对不对 ？So maybe one day when the plot is not a straight line, you have to draw a best fit line. 你必须画一条最美的一条直线了，而不是画一个 curve。你画 curve 这时候就错了，要用尺了，明白吗？看情况的 ，sometimes curve, sometimes straight line. So one per time over the concentration. The graph 是这样子画的。OK, next.OK， 没有东西了。So we fill the blank for our notes 我们填我们的 note 一下，小事来的填一下。So today, what is our manipulated variable？ 今天我们的操纵性变数是什么呢 ？The concentration of sodium disulfate 的浓度。Responding variable 反应性变数。The time taken for the mark X to disappear。Okay, and the time taken is also equal to the rate of reaction， 也等于化学反应的速度。What must be constant？ 什么东西必须固定呢？The concentration and the volume of the sulfuric acid， acid 的浓度还有它的 volume 要固定，是不是？还有另外一个要固定的呢，就是 the size of the flash， 你用的瓶啊，你5个实验，你5个实验用的那个 conical flash must be same size。So volume and the concentration of sulfuric acid, the temperature of the reactions， 还有一个很出名的 size of the flash of the conical flash， 那个瓶子的体积要用一样大个啦。The size of conical flash. So hypothesis， 我们的假设出场了。浓度越高，速度越快。So the rate of reaction will increase if the concentration of the reactant increase. But this sentence actually not good enough 了，我不喜欢。我不喜欢呢，不是因为我没有什么大不了的，对不对？我不喜欢因为 marking scheme 他喜欢扣这种答案的分数。So next time when you write your hypothesis， 操纵性变数写前面好吗？反应性变数写后面好吗？防止你被扣分呢。哎呀 ，up to you 了。你认为他这一句很美，你么写了 ？But for me， 如果我去考试，以我看过的经验啊，不是经验啊，没有什么经验啊，什么都不会。以我看过的 marking scheme 啊，他们喜欢固反应性变数在前面，超在前面，反在后面。So if I go exam, my answer will be here. The higher the concentration of the reactant, the higher the reactions. 这个才是我比较喜欢的答案呢。这是个人所好了哈。如果你喜欢它，因为它叫参考书，我又什么都不是，对不对 ？If you like this answer， 你就跟着了哈，自由就可以了。So settle for this title， 这个 title 圆满的结束了，又完成了一个 factor。But now we having a lot of past year， 现在有很多 past year 可以做 ，copy under your notes page number 11 or 12 under this experiment。So next time 你读到这边就做这些题目 ，understand？OK， 开始了。抄完我们就拜拜了。OK， 拜拜，谢谢你。